Okay, so let's continue on with chapter 14, getting into now the arc piece. So if we take a look, so here we got the graphic. We're going to draw an arc. We're going to basically start at row or column 20, row 20, and this time we basically are saying that we want to start at, we want a height and width of 100 and 100. We want to start at 0 and have a 90-degree arc. Okay, so it's going to basically start here on 2020, and then basically with a 0, starting at 0 and then go 90 degrees from there, it will basically draw an arc. It will just basically draw this line right here. We also have a fill arc. If this said fill arc, it would draw that same exact arc, except it would draw the entire quarter of a pie piece. Okay, so if we take a look at the code and we go to the arc demo, and again we've got our init. We basically tell it to make the content pane, the background, make it white. Here I have my paint. I bring in a graphic class, and then I say I want to go ahead and set a graphic color to black. I want to draw an arc starting at 0, column 0, row 20, and I want to have it have a height and width of 120, 120. Start at 0, go 90 degrees, and then do red, do a fill arc, same exact thing, except I'm going to start at column 120 or 140. Row 20, and it's going to be red. It's going to be filled, and then I basically change the color to green. I draw an arc at 0 and 45 degrees, and then I set another. Do another fill arc for 0 and 45 degrees. Okay, so we go over here to the arc demo, and I click on it, and there they are. So there is my 90 degree. There's the fill, 45 degree, 45 degree. So not too bad, pretty straightforward stuff. So let's take a look at. So we continue on here in the book. Here basically there's the code we just covered. Now the next thing we want to talk about is this thing called a polygon. Now a polygon's a little different in the fact that we're going to have. I think of it as connecting the dots. We're going to create a dot here, dot here, dot here, dot here, dot here, and then we connect the dots, and then we can do one of two things. We can fill it, or we can just have a line going all the way across. So here's an example. This is for this first polygon demo. We're actually going to draw a stop sign. So we basically draw a dot, 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 draw a dot. Now the thing with the polygon though, we're going to use arrays, meaning I'm going to have all the x coordinates in one array and all the y coordinates in another array. Now it's very important that they are parallel arrays, meaning if I've got 6 over here, I better have 6 over here, or I'm not going to have matching x and y coordinates. And another thing we have to do is we have to tell it how many points we're going to have. And so here's if looking here in the book, here we've got an array of x coordinates and another array of y coordinates. So it says starting in column 20, row 20, or column 60, row 20, that's going to be 1 point. Here is column 100, row 20, column 140, row 60, column 140, row 100, column 100, row 140, column 60, row 140, column 20, row 100, and column 20, row 60. It's going to put those points within our graphic area. So then, let's just take a look at the code. So we take a look at the code now. So there's our arrays. Then we say, we go ahead again, we always capture basically all of the stuff from the superclass. I paint red, and then I say fill the polygon. And I go ahead and just paste in all of the one array and the next array. And then the 8 says go ahead and connect 8 of the dots, the first 8 dots. Since there's only 8, it will draw a line all the way around them, and it will be filled. So when we run this, there we have a stop sign. So it's red, it's filled. Now another thing we can do, another piece in the book, is this thing that allows us to basically write text. Okay? So we've got this thing called drawstring. Now a drawstring does that. We basically have a couple of different parameters that we put in there. The first one is the actual text you want to display. The next is, again, the column and the row of the starting point, and then we're talking about the upper left-hand corner of that text, and then basically draw it across that particular polygon. So in this case, we're going to finish our stop sign. We're actually going to type the word stop. So we take a look at the there it is, graphic string demo. So again, we have this. This is identical to the other code, except the only thing we've done is down here at the bottom is we have changed the set color to white, meaning the next thing that we're going to have is the text is going to be white. We set the font to, we're going to actually just instantiate a new font, and then we say sans serif. We want the font to be bold, and we want it to be a font size of 35. Now sometimes we have to kind of experiment with this stuff. We have to change the font size, and kind of play around to make sure that we got the right font that we need. And sometimes it's kind of a hit or miss kind of thing. Well, then I go ahead and do the drawstring. Stop. It's going to be this font. We want to have it start at column 35, row 95, and basically go ahead and type that font in there. So when we run this, we basically then get our stop sign with the word stop in there. And again, there's the white text. Okay? So not too bad. Not too bad at all. So pretty easy stuff so far. So continue on. So the next thing we do is we've got this thing called a paint component, and we can actually capture the supers paint component, and it says in here that getting reference to a JPanel component graphic object is similar to the technique you saw in the previous example. Instead of overriding the JPanel's object paint method, however, you should override its paint component method. This is truly not only for the JPanel object, but also for this all swing components, except for JApplet and JFrame. The paint component method serves for a JPanel, and most other swing objects the same purpose as a paint method. It automatically called when the component needs to be redisplayed. When it's called, the component's graphics object is passed as an argument. So the paint component is just that. Again, it's just for a panel. It's not for a applet. And I can go ahead and say grab the supers paint component. Again, grab the G graphic. And so what we want to do is this. So if I were to paint something, it does just that. It paints over everything. Well, if I do a repaint kind of repaints what is there. Okay? So we are going to do that. We're going to repaint what's on the screen and not create a whole new graphic. We're going to use the existing graphic and just repaint it instead of paint, which creates a whole new object. So if we take a look at the graphics window. So let's take a look at the graphics window. Well, first let's take a look at the drawing panel. So we're going to create a drawing panel, and that is a JPanel. So we're going to create a JPanel object called drawing panel. And so here we have a drawing panel, and we're going to bring in a checkbox array. Okay, so nothing special there. It's just a J checkbox, but it's an array of J checkboxes. And then we say checkbox array equals the CB array, whatever is brought in. So up here is my checkbox array, and I'm going to grab whatever checkbox array is passed into me. I'm going to go ahead and put that into this variable called checkbox array. I set the background color to white, so the JPanel's background color is white. We set the preferred size to basically 300 and 200. So our panel is going to be 300 by 200. So that is our constructor. Then we have a paint component. Again, this is automatically executed just like it said. And what it does is whenever we do a paint or repaint, this is automatically executed. And what it does is it says, if checkbox, again going through the array, if checkbox 0 is checked, we're going to set the color to black and we're going to draw a line. If the checkbox array 1 is selected, we're going to draw a rectangle. If the third one is selected, we're going to draw a filled rectangle. If the third one, we're going to draw an oval. If the fifth one, we're going to draw a filled oval. If the sixth one, we're going to draw a arc. And if it's the seventh one, we're going to draw a filled arc. So here's what happens. So every time we basically click or we paint or repaint, it's going to go through this. So it kind of wipes out the screen, wipes out the panel, and then it basically repaints everything on that screen. So if the box isn't checked, it just doesn't do it. But if it is checked, it goes ahead and paints that on the screen. So that's the panel. Okay. So how are we going to use this panel? Well, we have to open up this graphics window, and in there you'll see that, now this is a JApplet, and with the JApplet, we can see that we create an array of strings. First of all, we create an array of checkboxes. They're not instantiated yet, but then we create an array of strings. There we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 labels. So line, rectangle, filled, so on and so forth. Then I go ahead and say I create a JPanel called checkbox panel, and then I create a drawing panel. So this is where I'm bringing the drawing panel in, and it's going to be called a drawing panel object. Now notice it's not instantiated yet. So down here in my init, I automatically call build checkbox panel. So down here is that method. So here's my checkbox panel. So it's created. Now I'm going to instantiate it as a new JPanel. Here's my checkbox panel.set layout. It's going to basically be 7 columns or 7 rows, 1 column. My checkbox is now basically instantiated as an array of 7. And then I go ahead and go through a for loop where I go ahead and I'm going to go through the checkboxes, all 7, the dot length, and then I basically instantiate it as a new checkbox with a title. And so it takes each one of those text items and that string array, and I load that in as a label for each one of those checkboxes. And then I go ahead and add a listener for each checkbox. And then I go ahead and add those checkboxes to the panel. So basically pretty straightforward stuff. I got an array of checkboxes, an array of labels. I go ahead and throw them into the panel. Okay, and then I add an action listener for each one. So here's my action listener. With my action listener, I just basically say this: drawing panel, that's my drawing panel object, dot repaint. What happens there is that paint component automatically gets executed. Okay, because again, there is no paint method within a panel, but it does have a paint component. So when we repaint, that's automatically executed. So what it does is it kind of erases the board, and then it redraws everything, repaints everything. So when we run this, I click on it, and I'm going to type in my password again. Box comes up. And if I click a line, it just repainted. I click a rectangle, it just repainted. And again, since those 2 are checked, it repainted it and made those happen. There's my filled, there's my oval, filled oval, arc. Okay. And every time I uncheck one, it repaints. Remember, it wipes out that page and then repaints it. So I can uncheck things and then recheck them. And again, it looks like something's just being added and removed, but really what it's doing is it's wiping the whole thing out and then repainting the whole thing. So pretty neat stuff, not too bad. So let's go ahead and end it here, and we'll finish up this chapter with the next section. See you in a bit.